Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm your ever-loving host, Shorty. Take a look at Black Cat today, which is a comic book I'm reading for one reason only, and her name is G. Willow Wilson. Because I would probably not be reading Poison Ivy right now if it wasn't the fact that I picked up a copy to review of it and was absolutely blown away by it. Because Poison Ivy is a character that I just don't really care that much about. Most of the reputation I've seen before that point was either very one-note femme fatale or an excuse to look at anyone who cares about ecological issues to be a terrorist. Then comes G. Willow Wilson, with some fantastic artwork thrown in there as well by his name I forgot at the moment, who actually does a really good job of creating a far more rounded character, centres her in her own story, gives her far deeper motivations, far deeper relationships with people and the world, and also throws out some fantastic stories on the back of this character. Black Cat is somebody who I don't really know much about. I've said this before, I don't really read much Spider-Man books. Unless you got Miles Morales or Hobie Brown in them, I don't really pay that much attention. So I didn't know who she was, but the way she's represented, her visual aesthetic feels very much in that reign of femme fatale. She's there to be an interesting foil to Peter Parker in the same way that Catwoman was supposed to be for Batman. And I was like, well, okay, let's give it a go. Because if anyone's going to change my mind, it will be G. Willow Wilson. She has done a fantastic job in the past. And I've got to say, for the vast majority of things I was looking at the comic book, I got them. However, I am not a fan of the colouring, to the point that it genuinely annoyed me a couple of times. It's got that very flat, basic colour gradation that genuinely makes me think a human barely paid attention to how the colouring was done. It has a tendency to have entire panels where the characters go from wherever they were before to the Janet Void for a while for some reason. And at one point during a very cool chase, fleeing from the cops over rooftops, the characters all end up in alleyways surrounded over the high roofs. And we know it's an alleyway because there's red brick walls and there is dumpsters. But then one panel, the background is the exact same colour as the sky was before when they were on the rooftops. That really nice blue to pink city at sunset kind of thing. And there's no way that angle would have made sense. There's no angle at all which would make sense for the sky to be there. It just feels like they couldn't be bothered doing anything more with it, and it lets me down whenever that happens. Gleb Melnikov, though, they do really good artwork. The line work is brilliant with a very, very light touch, which is fantastic, and they have this fantastic ability to go about that crossover between photorealism and stylized characterization, an almost perfect balance of the two. It feels very comic booky, and there's a wonderful little 3-panel story involving just some exposition and then a look to camera moment. Really, really well done. Uses the same artwork for a couple of panels, but messes around with focus so it does look like it's different. Really, really tight, very well done storytelling. But the writing is the important bit. It's the reason why I was more excited to check this out. Like I say, Wilson is spectacular. And this one, we do get some kind of root-worn stuff. We have her, fleeing the cops. There is a tussle with the lizard, which means she has to go to the night nurse. And this feels very much like, okay, first issue of a Black Cat going, but this isn't doing anything I wasn't expecting it to do. But due to a few other things going on at the same time in the Marvel Universe, she comes to a bit of a realization. And I quite like it, because it feels very Wilson to me. It is understanding that, yes, she does rob from the rich, not necessarily in a Robin Hood give to the poor way, but it costs a lot of money to live her life, and that means she's spending the money she's taking from exceptionally wealthy people, capitalists and the elite and what have you. My phone is going, I do apologise, we're just going to totally ignore that. And instead of hoarding it, she spends it, she puts it back into the world, which is a better way for money to exist. But she also realises that as much as she has fun trying to take down the kind of ultra-wealthy people, what she basically is part of the system. She can't rob off those hyper-capitalists. Well, as long as they are hyper-capitalists there, she's not going to change anything by robbing from them. She's a minor inconvenience. And then she has this realisation that with all this that's going on at the moment, it's becoming harder and harder to do it, so she's going to become a crime fighter. And I was like, oh, gosh, you're going to become a cop. But no, I don't think so, at least. I can't really say 100% sure where Will's going to go with this one. But Black Cat does have a couple of moments in this comic book where she has an understanding of levels of criminality, intention and result. The idea that some people are forced into bad situations, some people make those choices, some people may either through action, inaction, or misunderstanding harm or not harm people, may put more good into the world. And I feel like somebody from that background going into that role of superhero cop kind of thing, or hero, master adventurer cop, could be interesting take. And I think, again, there's other people doing this that I might not be as excited about, but because it's Wilson, I feel like I'm at least going to check out those couple of issues to see how it goes. I'm not 100% hooked on it. The colouring genuinely annoyed me, but I cannot talk about Wilson with enough praise. She's done a fantastic job and has made me care about this character, even down to her aesthetic choices she makes in universe. Really well done, fantastic stuff. Can't wait for more. Till I see you all again then. Look after yourself. Stay safe. Bye.